Free patterns are not free. Just because you didn't pay for them doesn't mean there's not a cost associated with them. So what are those costs? Who's paying for them? How much money do people make on free patterns? These are some of the questions that I'm going to be answering today. So real quick, if this is the first time meeting me, what's up? My name's Amanda. I am the knit and crochet designer behind Mandobug Crafts, and I enjoy sharing inspiration and education along my pursuit of craftiness. So why am I talking about this today? Well, it's something that's near and dear to my heart, and it's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. As a designer, I personally offer both free and pay for patterns, and I hear things from people like, I think that designers charge too much for their patterns. I think all patterns should be free. And then on the flip side of that, I also hear things like, I don't think designers should offer patterns for free because it devalues patterns and it perpetuates the idea that patterns have no value associated with them and that designers shouldn't charge for their patterns. So I'm hoping that sharing this information today is going to kind of just really spread awareness on the topic overall and why designers may choose to sell patterns or offer them for free, what the costs are that correspond to a pattern, and how they might be funded, who might be funding them if it's not the customer. So patterns aren't free, they have costs. Even if you got them for free, they cost somebody something. So what are some of the costs that are corresponding with patterns? So there's the time to create the pattern, right? And this is going to include everything that has to do with the concept, sketches, swatching, sample making, pattern writing, creating charts even, possibly, depending on whether you're a knit or crochet designer. Materials as well. So you're looking at yarn, notions, tools, those kind of things. Technical editing, which I think all patterns should have technical editing as part of the design process. Testing is optional, but that also has time or costs associated with them, and I'll get into the details more a little bit later. And then also publishing, right? So is this pattern actually physically printed? If not, there's still publishing costs when it comes to uploading to e-commerce sites, such as maybe Etsy or even your own website. There's also all of the marketing costs associated with a pattern. So we're talking photography, photo editing, possibly videography, graphic design. Are you gonna put this up in a blog post? If so, you have to do SEO research. And then there's all of the social media in addition to that. And then there's also general business expenses. And these are all the things that are the equipment or services that help you execute the tasks that are required for the creation of a pattern. This is things like computers, maybe some software that you're using, or website hosting expenses if you have your own website. So these are all of the costs associated, but what is the monetary value? How much money does it actually cost to create a pattern? So this ranges greatly depending on the size and complexity of the pattern, as well as some of the marketing strategies that you may decide to use. There are a lot that are available, and the more that you use, the quicker marketing becomes one of the more expensive parts of creating a pattern, especially when you look at social media marketing. You might say, oh, organic reach when it comes to social media is free. But it's actually not, because there is a time cost associated with it. Even organic free posts take time and effort if you're going to do them correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and share my personal costs for one of my recent patterns. And I think this is a good one because it's kind of a middle of the road. It's not a super simple pattern. It's also not a large or complex pattern. And this is my 2 ways to crochet it right shawl. This is a fingering weight shawl that uses 2 hanks of yarn. It's crocheted on the bias with a border. And it didn't take me a lot of time to design this pattern. So the time it took to create this pattern, like I said, from concept to final written pattern was 11 hours. So at a value of $25 an hour, right? So this is going to be different depending on the person and the designer and what they value their time at. Personally, that is the price that I set for myself. That's because that's my opportunity cost of not having a job outside of designing. That is the last salary that I received when I worked for somebody else. And so it's not a bad price point for me to decide to set for myself. But this may be lower or higher depending on the designer. So for me, it's $25 an hour. So 11 hours at $25 an hour is $275 just to create the pattern. Then the materials I paid for out of pocket as well. That was $58 for the yarn. I'm not including the tools and notions because I kind of look at them as like they were paid for and funded a while ago, but technically they are a small percentage of the cost. Technical editing, I didn't ask my tech editor how much time this one cost. I work with her frequently and she keeps a spreadsheet for me, but her price is a bulk $40 an hour. So let's just go ahead and say a full hour at $40. I also chose to test this pattern. So that was 2 hours total. And what I'm including for that was the time it took to create the sign up form, the survey form, and communicating with my volunteer testers. I didn't pay my testers. They were completely volunteers. That price point may change depending on if the designer offers more than just the pattern in exchange for testing. So 2 hours for testing's another $50. Publishing, so I uploaded my pattern to Ravelry, Etsy, my website, and Ribbler. And uploading to Ribbler took an hour alone because it's new to me and it's a little bit different of a format. But so that's another $50 for publishing. And then marketing. Marketing is half my costs when you look at my time to create. I spent 7 hours marketing my pattern, so that's $175 in marketing, and that includes, I did my own photography with my boyfriend, so that was 1 hour for each of us, so 2 hours for the photo shoot, and then 1 hour for photo editing, another hour for graphic design, and 2 hours worth of social media promotion. So the total costs for that pattern were $648. And those are all costs that I incurred because this was an independently published pattern and I did not fund it through any other business. So I charged that pattern $6 for that pattern. So how many sales do I need to make to cover just the costs? It's 108 sales. Anything over that, then that pattern starts to make me a profit. So, but real talk real quick, how many copies of that pattern did I sell? So far, only 1. But that's a whole different topic for another day. But this is going to give you an idea of just the total cost of a pattern. So $648. If that's how much a pattern can cost, and I feel like this is a good middle of the road cost, who's paying for the pattern if it's not the customer? So this is where other businesses come in. So free patterns are generally funded by other businesses. And there's 4 main ways that other businesses fund these free patterns. So the first way is straight up copyright purchasing. This is what I have most experience with. When you look at the free patterns that I have available, they have been straight up copyright purchased. So yarn companies and local yarn stores will purchase full or shared rights to a pattern to help market and sell their yarn or other products possibly. This grants that company legal ownership and rights to distribute the pattern for free or for sale if they wish to, because I've also had that happen as well. The terms of the agreement are typically outlined in a contract, and a one-time fee is paid to the designer. And like I said, if it's full rights, you just let it go and it's gone. If it's shared, you can continue to possibly offer it for free and or sell it depending on the terms in that contract. So that's one way that patterns are offered for free. Another way that some of the cost of a pattern is funded, if not all of it, is through sponsorships. I've also had this happen as well. So companies will cover some or all of the costs of a pattern in exchange for advertising purposes through sponsorships. This is a common advertising technique that's used by yarn companies. Sponsorships are generally the reasons that you're going to see free patterns not offer a blanket yarn weight or any sort of yarn substitution information. That's because they probably got the yarn for free in exchange for recommending that yarn only. And that will at least fund the yarn. Sometimes yarn companies will also go on to purchase rights to the pattern as well. Sometimes not. So that's another way that some of the funds, if not all of them, can be covered. The third way is advertisements. Now this is the big one you see with free patterns on blogs. People will upload their free pattern to a blog and it will be just bombarded with ads from things like Google AdSense, AdThrive, or Mediavine, and even YouTube as well. If there's a free pattern on YouTube, it may have ads on it to generate income as well. So this is because there are big businesses shelling out large amounts of money into getting in front of customers, anybody. So that is a way that can also fund free patterns. And then the fourth option that you're going to see as well is affiliate programs. This is another thing that you'll see on blogs, but it doesn't just relate to blogs because it's any digital product that you can embed a direct link in, really. So companies such as Amazon affiliates, CJ affiliate, and ShareASale, they all offer a program where you get a kickback of the sale of a product using a direct link. This works really well for pattern designing when it comes to yarn. So if you have a pattern that's recommending a yarn and you use a direct link and people go on to purchase the yarn for that pattern, you get a kickback of the sales, and that will fund the creation of the pattern as well. So as you can see, other businesses can cover the costs and potentially even create profits on a design. And that really varies depending on several different factors. But what I did do is I typed everything in today's live up in a blog post, and at the end I linked a couple public crochet designer income reports. And I think if you're interested in some of the details, you can go check those out, because you'll see that most designers offer a mix of both, because it's a good idea to diversify your income stream, and you'll see the way that the funding works. And another thing that I've noticed as well is the more free patterns that a designer will offer, the more money comes from their advertising, and that kind of has a snowball effect, and the numbers get really, really high. So I think that's why we see a lot of free patterns, and it perpetuates that idea that patterns should be free and I don't want to pay for patterns, and why doesn't everybody just offer free patterns? But as I explained earlier, there's several reasons why you would or wouldn't offer a free pattern or a pattern for sale, and I think it's just something that I hope is eye-opening, that patterns have value associated with them, even if you didn't specifically pay for them, even if they're offered for free. It's not because there's not a value, you're just not paying for that value. Somebody else is footing your bill. And you know, it's something you want to think about, putting that power in another company's hand. There's definitely the trade-off, right? You'll see this a lot with blog posting as well, where there will be a free pattern on a blog, but it's got a lot of fluff in it because they want you on that page for a long amount of time to boost their stats, boost their ad revenue. And there's ads everywhere, right? I know people will complain like, oh, I just want the pattern, but designers will also offer it for sale, which gives that option to fund the pattern directly through sales. So yeah, I think I think those are just the best things to keep in mind when you're going to be judging why free, why pay for, and is there a value associated with it. All right, well, thanks for hanging out with me, and I hope this was fun and informative, and I think I'm going to be touching on the topic in other areas in more details in the future. Thanks so much, and have a great rest of your day.